Many people have a fear of enclosed spaces, such as being in an elevator. Fortunately for many of us, we're able to escape those situations when the doors open, for example. What if, however, you were stuck in that enclosed space for 23 hours a day? That is the harsh reality inmates in solitary confinement have to face. Hello, y'all. My name is Moulton, and I'm currently a sophomore at Bridgewater College studying psychology with a minor in criminal justice. Today, I would like to take you into a deeper dive into the effects of solitary confinement. By the end of this speech, I hope you'll understand that while it is a common punishment practice in prisons, solitary confinement has detrimental psychological and physiological effects. The first point in this speech is the popularity of solitary confinement as a common punishment practice. As previously mentioned, solitary confinement is a practice where certain inmates are kept from the general population for 22 to 23 hours a day, leaving an hour or two to shower or exercise. This practice dates back to the 1800s, where it was first used by Quakers in Pennsylvania. More recently, however, there's been an uptick in its use. In his article published in the University of Michigan's Journal of Law Reform, Shira Gordon mentions that the number of prisoners in solitary confinement has increased 40% from 1995 to 2000, in comparison to the 28% increase in the total population growth. Solitary confinement can be distinguished into three types: administrative, disciplinary, and protective, with administrative being the most common. Administrative segregation is typically used when an inmate is deemed a risk to the safety of others. However, this doesn't always have to be the case. Sometimes an inmate can be thrown into solitary confinement as a result of some beef between the prison guard and the inmate. This may lead you to wonder about the validity of this practice. Secondly, I would like you to consider the negative psychological effects of enduring solitary confinement. While the psychological effects will vary from inmate to inmate, an article published in the University of Chicago's Crime and Justice Journal was able to list a few commonalities. Inmates typically experience a severe inability to concentrate, often associated with confusion and memory loss. They also experience hallucinations, illusions, paranoia, and other perceptual distortions. On top of that, feelings of depression, anxiety, impulsivity, and lethargy are common. Enduring any of these symptoms is enough to put anyone's psychological well-being at risk. Take the case of former inmate Anthony Graves. Graves spent 18 years in prison, with 10 of those years in solitary confinement. He recalls seeing sane inmates going into solitary confinement only to come out in a state of derealization. He also recalls his own experiences in solitary confinement. Now, Graves experiences a difficulty sleeping, as well as mood swings that often lead to emotional breakdowns. While many inmates are able to recover from the effects of solitary confinement, there is still a high prevalence of post-isolation symptoms that make it harder for the inmate to adjust to civilian life, leading to their rearrests. It can be seen that the psychological effects don't just last while one is in solitary confinement. They stay with you for years later. Lastly, I argue that there are negative physiological consequences associated with solitary confinement. The University of Chicago's Crime and Justice Journal lists a variety of common physiological symptoms. This includes severe headaches, heart palpitations, digestive issues, abdomen and muscle pains, dizziness, fainting, and a loss of appetite. You may not think that these symptoms are as bad as it seems. I mean, everybody gets muscle pain and digestive issues, right? What you may not know, though, is that the physiological effects of solitary confinement go deeper. Brain chemist Elena Blanco Suarez highlights the physical changes that occur in the brain as a result of prolonged social isolation. She states that the hippocampus, the brain region associated with learning and memory, decreases in size, which leads to a decrease in the formation of new neurons and eventually hippocampal failure. She also noticed that the amygdala, the brain region associated with processing threatening and fearful stimuli, increases in activity, which produces anxiety. I hope this has shown you that solitary confinement not only has debilitating symptoms, but it also permanently changes you. In this speech, I argue that solitary confinement is an often used punishment practice that has adverse psychological and physiological ramifications. These effects can make it harder for an inmate to readjust back into society, leading to higher recidivism rates. So remember, While solitary confinement may be romanticized in TV and movies, it can be detrimental to one's physical and mental health. I would like to thank you all for watching, and if you want to learn more, my references will be in the description. Thank you.